A quarter of a century ago brought social media to the World Wide Web, a new means of communication across the globe. The turn of the millennia felt like a fresh start, one we look back on in nostalgic admiration. And on August 15th, 2000, I was born. My name is Alec Lade, and I'm excited to present to you my senior capstone, the pinnacle of my work here at Bethany Lutheran College, and really the culmination of my life. But before we get into that, I absolutely need to thank everyone involved. From my colleagues who've helped me along the way, to professors Jason Jasperson, Stephanie Heidorn, Andy Overn, and Greg Vandermouse, for shaping my eyeballs to see things in a way that's improved my art dramatically for the better. Of course, Ben Lunston.
How's it going, everybody?
My advisor and the professor of our capstone class. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met, and you're one of the many reasons this program is so fun. You might not be an expert in motion graphics, but your advice has always held in extremely high regard. Another huge thank you to Amanda Quist, who introduced me to motion graphics, a medium that most of you probably aren't aware of. Amanda was my mentor here at Bethany, and I truly would not be here without her help. So thanks, Amanda. Still a little salty you ditched us, though. Thank you to my other half, Araya, who's had to deal with her cave-dwelling boyfriend for the past 3 years. Your consistent support means more than you could ever imagine. I love you, and thanks for always acting interested when I yap about this stuff. And the biggest thank you to my parents, Matt and Kelly. My parents never forced me to be what they wanted me to be, and that ultimately led me to do what I love. Although it was probably a few hundred handfuls raising me, I wouldn't be who I am today without all the support they've provided me. I'll try not to get too emotional with this one, but without them, I obviously wouldn't be here. I'm forever indebted to you guys for how much you've done for me. So thank you, and I love you both so much. Growing up, I was an extremely curious kid. I loved math and numbers as much as I loved exploring the knowns and unknowns of the world around me. I remember asking my dad the hows and whys of everything I couldn't comprehend, and it blew my mind that he just knew everything I did. I wasn't a great student when it came to grades. Sorry again, Mom and Dad. But once I was fixated on something, I had to know everything about it. The more I began looking up, the more fascinated I was with the idea that there's this seemingly infinite cosmos that we're just chilling in the middle of. Space is scary, yet beautiful. It's chaotic, but it's also predictable. It's something most of us take for granted when we look up at night. I often find myself encapsulated by the unknown, and most people are, as I've found out. Fostering that curiosity in the next generations isn't just something that motivates me. It drove me to start this project, a YouTube channel and brand called Ethereality. I wanted to combine that itch I have in my brain with my motion graphics work, and I'll be presenting 2 of those videos to you today. The videos on my channel talk about some of the profound mysteries that challenge human perception and evoke deep emotions. Thank you for that definition, ChatGPT. Things like dreams, the vastness of space, and the impossibly low likelihood that we're alone in it. In addition to those videos, I created merchandise for the Ethereality brand, which you can purchase out in the lounge area. I plan to release more in the future on my website, etherealitymotiondesign.com. 20% of the proceeds goes towards charities that support the education of our next generations. And the other 80% goes to a broke college student who works at Alde. But he has dreams too. My goal isn't to make money off of any of this or just make flashy videos for YouTube, but bridge the gap between entertainment and education. I want to give my audience a bite-sized look into the ethereal parts of our reality. The first video I'd like to show today tackles a topic that I'm sure we've all thought about at least once or twice. Arthur C. Clarke once wrote, "Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying." At the beginning of time, everything in our universe existed, even you. Every atom in your body, every planet, every galaxy that has ever, or will ever exist, in one infinitely small point called a singularity, a tiny ball of energy with an almost infinite mass. Then it burst. In a fraction of a second, its volume increased by a factor of this many times. Fast forward 13.7 billion years, There are almost 100 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy, each with as many, if not more, planets than our solar system. And that's not counting the other 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. So if there's that many galaxies, stars, planets, where is everybody? How is it that life showed up here, yet no one else has reached out to us? Other galaxies have had billions of years to develop. We can't be the only ones, right? That just doesn't make sense. Maybe aliens have some sort of secret intergalactic society that we just haven't been invited to yet, because we're like toddlers to them, still sitting at the kids' table. We as a species think we're so evolved, but we have yet to scratch the surface. Sure, we've made it to the moon, we've launched telescopes to the other end of our galaxy, we've even sent dogs into space. But maybe somewhere on the other side of the universe, that's already happened. Billions and billions and billions of years ago. So the next time you look up at the stars, amongst every little dot that lights up the night sky, think to yourself, where is everybody? Video as a medium has made an enormous impact on my life, obviously. From making home videos with my sister as a kid, to making skit videos with my friends, to being the video guy in high school. It always seemed like a glorified hobby to me. It wasn't until about 2014 when I heard about an editing and compositing program called Adobe After Effects that I really started crafting my videos. I would stay up until 3, 4, 5 a.m. editing gaming content. I remember winning a $200 editing contest for some clips some guy threw online. And to a 15-year-old, that wasn't only a bunch of money I made sitting in my room, that was really a turning point in my life. After high school, I went to South Central College, and my initial plan was to be an engineer. But I was talked out of it by my video professor at the time, Wes Taylor, who was my first ever mentor in this field. Except for this guy.
Welcome to another After Effects tutorial.
Fast forward to 2021, he recommended I look into the media arts program here at Bethany. So I did. And that was the best decision I've ever made in terms of my career. In my sophomore year at Bethany, I was introduced to animation and motion graphics. And almost immediately I fell in love. I produced a video called Dreams for my final project, and this 2-minute motion graphic inspired the style of my Ethereality videos. The process for making these videos is very simple. First, I start by researching a topic that fascinates me. I write down a bunch of notes, and I condense those notes into a script. I listen to music a lot throughout the writing process, and that helps me decide what feelings I want to evoke. Then I record myself reading the script, I chop up the best of, and I mix the audio with my songs of choice. Then I have to edit the sound of my voice because without any effects, this is what my voice sounds like. It's not very good. Creating the visuals is the part I really get to express the right side of my brain. But I start by creating shot lists so I have some structure to follow. I have a pretty distinct style, but I like to build inspiration from other artists, so assembling a mood board is vital to this process. Once I have a plan, I start by making what are called style frames, which is basically the static form of my final animation. It helps with pacing and figuring out what works and what doesn't. I then begin the animation process, which is a lot of problem solving. Like, how do I create a black hole out of 2D objects or present images in a creative way, all while keeping my style and my color palette consistent? These animations would be lifeless and uninteresting without textures. So I assemble a folder with tons of assets, or I use effects built into After Effects to spice up the final product. Finally, I polish it over the course of about a week, smooth out the rough edges, add sound effects, and then I hit render. And I cry while my computer starts on fire. This is an incredibly iterative process, and I hope what you've mainly gathered from this is that I care about every part of it. At times, it can get really difficult and stressful, but watching an idea grow from its infant stages all the way to presenting this to the screen you're watching this on is a feeling like no other. It's terrifying more than anything, but I love it. The next video I'd like to share is about something else that terrifies me. The subject being a phenomenon that's haunted me ever since I started learning about space. That is how big it is, and how small it makes us feel. If you find any of the following images unsettling, if they evoke an unnerving sense of loneliness, helplessness, you're definitely not alone. Trying to imagine the scale of these environments makes you realize how small you truly are. We like to assume we have a sense of scale at these levels, but our brains aren't programmed to think like this. There's a certain point where our frame of reference becomes useless, and it renders us unable to understand what we're looking at. We aren't supposed to feel comfortable in the presence of something bigger than us. That's likely helped us get here. This innate fear, appropriately named megalophobia, is the reason you don't instinctively run toward a bear that's twice your size or a tornado that's 10,000 times your size. You aren't wrong in assuming Earth is massive, because it is, in comparison to you. But on the cosmic scale, Earth is so extraordinarily small. It only fills about 0.003 of a billionth percent of our universe. That number is impossible for our feeble little human brains to ascertain, so even attempting to fathom the enormity of space would be completely hopeless, right? I mean, it would be a complete waste of my time trying to... Okay, let's start small. Imagine Earth is a single pixel on your screen. Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, would be about 11 pixels wide, and the Sun about 110. Now this is a pretty lame representation, so let's ramp it up a bit. The largest star in the Milky Way galaxy, named Stephenson 2-18 or RSGC 2-01, or ST2-18, would be about 236,500 pixels wide, meaning you would need about 123 more screens just to see its true scale. You could fit 10 billion suns inside of this star, but this star pales in comparison to the largest black hole, which is about 260 times larger than it. Ton 618 is so large that its accretion disk is larger than the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxy combined. The magnitude of this stuff is unimaginable. This scale is so ridiculous. I mean, seriously, what could possibly be bigger than that? Well, the answer is, in the most literal sense possible, nothing. Supervoids are ultra-massive pockets of space that inhabit absolutely nothing. Complete darkness, nothingness, desolation beyond comprehension. The largest being Boots Void, which is over 190 billion miles, or 330 million light years across. If you were driving down a highway straight through Boots Void, you would reach the other end 335 trillion years after you started. If Earth were just a pixel on the screen of your phone, Boots Void would be 2 billion miles long.
That's about the same distance from the sun all the way to Uranus, or the distance Earth travels around the sun after 4 years. We are so incredibly insignificant in comparison to the universe. We're like an ant swimming in the middle of the ocean, or floating out in the middle of space on a rock that holds no real significance. But there's a certain serenity that lies in that fact. Our universe contains over 10 million planets. 1 in a trillion of those are habitable to life, yet we haven't discovered any so far. The odds of you existing on this little rock we call home are astronomically low. But you're here, so make your time on this one count.
The reason I love space so much isn't purely out of admiration or adoration. It's the complete befuddlement I get when I think about it, and the dedication of the human race to find the answers to the unknowns. The same curiosity drives us to ask profound questions about ourselves, our purpose, and how we connect with the world around us. Curiosity pushes the human race forward. So ask those questions. Don't be afraid to share your views, but always be willing to listen to others' thoughts and opinions. We're all born curious. It's up to you to listen when your kid asks, and instead of saying, I don't know, you say, let's find out. So thanks, Mom and Dad. And thank you to everyone who's helped me along the way. I'd say I owe you the world, but on a cosmic scale, that's just not enough. Thank you all for watching, and keep looking up.